Here we're jumping in on a Wednesday edition. It is Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason getting ready for a game that definitely has a playoff feel, Mace.
I think that's a very good way of putting it. Definitely has that playoff feel, Super Bowl preview perhaps, because it's AFC versus NFC. I mean, this is the other thing. It's a playoff feel, and I think the cross-conference nature of it adds something to it as well. That it is legitimately a matchup that you might see at the end. That the Broncos lead in the race for the top seed in the AFC. The Packers are right there, a half game back in the race for the top seed in the NFC. So it's not that implausible to see this as a potential matchup there in Santa Clara in February. That's, I think, where a lot of the excitement lies in this matchup. It's a very tasty matchup at this time of year.
Some might even say spicy. Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. Mace, you and I are old enough to remember when the NFC dominated the Super Bowl. Of course, Broncos fans will remember too, because you kept losing when you got there. I don't sense that this year. You know, maybe the Rams are the league's only powerhouse, but I don't look at the NFC as like the far superior conference in the NFL. I think both sides of the ledger have some pretty good teams. Rams being perhaps the only elite team.
I mean, I think the Rams are the favorite right now. If you were saying, okay, who's the most likely to win the Super Bowl? They're the favorite. I think the interesting thing about, say, the Packers in this mix is that while the Rams are the favorite, the Packers have a specific player in Micah Parsons who, if they get ahead, he's the closer, right? Think of how the Broncos in 2015 had Von Miller as that closer. And think of how you get to 2021 and the Rams had Aaron Donald and Von Miller together. I mean, Von in that playoff run was massive for the Rams getting their Super Bowl. That the trade was a brilliant one for the Rams, even though they only got a half season plus a playoff run out of Von Miller. And of course, that pick became Nick Bonito. It was a great trade for the Broncos. Phenomenal trade.
Yes.
But I think the Rams would say it was a phenomenal trade for them as well. Even though the Broncos got Nick Bonito out of it, they probably got a Super Bowl out of it as well because Vaughn was a closer. Micah Parsons, if you look at the Lions game there on Thanksgiving, Micah Parsons closed that out, basically. The way he's attacking Jared. And I sort of got this, I got the sense watching that game that, okay, I'm seeing the equation for success for the Packers kind of fall into place here. And I was talking with a couple of people during the open period of practice, and then during the practice, and I said, you know, one of the really interesting things about this game, I would maybe love to see a scenario where it's 4 minutes to go and the Broncos are behind, say, by 3 or 4 points.
Okay.
And have the ball. Because I would love to see the Broncos with their protection and Bo Nix, who has proven to be captain comeback this year. And as we've discussed, is one of the league's best and most efficient quarterbacks in the last 2 minutes of each half and overtime. The rest of the game, not so much. In those situations, he is. I would love to see him and the offense operate against a Packers defense that against Detroit closed them out, against Chicago made the big interception at the end to close them out. So that's I don't know if we'll get that kind of situation, but I would love to see that kind of strength versus strength. Okay, you got Green Bay with a defense and a star that is the closer. That's why they traded for him. And then Bo Nix and the Broncos offense, the thing that they do well is they get it done at the end. So that would be a wonderful strength versus strength scenario matchup if Sunday's game came down to that. I would love to see what happened in that type of scenario, to see who won that. Basically, it's the kind of great versus great matchup that you want to see when two teams like this collide.
Who gets the coffee? Because coffee's for closers.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to find out here in this contest. Mace, I've said it on Dover and Cecil, and I would love your response to this. And really, it kind of ties in. I had a final question for Sean Payton, but our man Jeff Legwald, we did the final question, and I genuflected to Leggy because he's the legend, right? And we love him dearly. But my question for Sean was like, hey, when you describe Jordan Love, you kind of describe Bo Nix. So my question to you, and the statement I've made on the radio, Mace, is merely this. I think the Broncos are the Green Bay version of the AFC.
Interesting.
Do you like that? I look at the quarterbacks, 3 fourth-quarter comebacks for Jordan Love.
Yeah.
More for Bo Nix. But I look at, okay, the ground game is better with Josh Jacobs. He just is. But
and Josh Jacobs is very good against the Broncos too.
Oh my God,
that's the X factor in this game. Like,
there's Eric Dickerson on Halloween, and then there's Josh Jacobs anytime he plays the Broncos. Yeah. So I think this might be the Spider-Man meme, where it's like Green Bay and Denver are kind of pointing at each other, and then who closes will be the deciding factor.
And obviously, Green Bay's winning streak is not as long as the Broncos, but they are getting better. Both teams are going in the right direction. I mean, in some ways, I know the score doesn't reflect it, but we saw a performance last Sunday where the Broncos found a gear that they didn't have, the ability to sustain those long drives and very deliberately choke the life out of an opponent. Mm-hmm. Another way for this team to win a game. This team's proven very resourceful, and it's proven adept at finding different ways to beat you. Well, there's another path to success for this team. And if you've got a variety of ways in which you can beat an opponent, that means you can adapt to what your foe throws at you. It's the old Bill Parcells way. It's the Bill Belichick way. And, of course, Bill Belichick, a former Parcells assistant, Sean Payton, a former Parcells assistant. I mean, I think if you understand the Parcells way, you're going to understand a lot about what Sean Payton does. And so this is another thing is you've got Matt LaFleur, who's very much the Shanahan-McVay school.
Right.
And then Sean Payton, who's very much the Bill Parcells school. Of course, the great irony for the Broncos is, of course, the Shanahan-McVay school. Kyle Shanahan from Mike Shanahan and Sean McVay, a former Mike Shanahan assistant. They were both on the Washington staff, and the Broncos so closely associated with Mike Shanahan, and now they are on the other side of this philosophically, even though they're so closely associated historically with this. It's just funny how these things work.
Yeah, it's funny how they don't. Sweet Home Alabama quote. Anyway, like I look at it, Mace, we'll get more into it Saturday, but because of that Shanahan tree, expect their best punch early.
Yeah.
And Jordan Love can punch now. I was asked on Twitter, is like Pat Surtain going to follow Christian Watson? I don't believe so, but Jordan Love, a healthy amount of respect from Sean Payton about the opposing quarterback. And certainly we know the Broncos defense will be prepared as well. He's the type of QB that if you blitz him, he'll kill you. Yeah. Just like Bo. You don't blitz Bo and you don't blitz Jordan.
Well, let's listen to Sean Payton and what he had to say about Jordan.
His deep ball accuracy, his poise in the pocket, he can extend, he can climb, he can run. He doesn't take sacks. I feel like over the last however many years, I've watched him just progress, and so there's a timing and a confidence level. They do a really good job offensively of getting the ball down the field, receivers, and they're right near the top, first in third down. I think they're second in red zone. I mean, statistically speaking, both sides of the ball are way up there.
Okay.
It's going to be a challenge.
Oh, yeah. And especially with that deep ball accuracy. And Mace, you know this, he doesn't lock on to anybody.
Yeah.
It'd be more dangerous if Tucker Kraft was healthy. He's not. But with Jordan Love, I'm not saying it's 11 receivers like Bo Nix distributed the ball last week, but Jordan Love goes to Christian Watson, who's back, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed. Like, they've got a healthy collection of pass catchers, in addition to, some guy named Josh Jacobs.
Yeah. He's number 5 in the league in air yards per attempt.
Okay.
And he's number 6 in the league in success rate, and then number 1 in the league in EPA per play this year. Ahead of Drake May, ahead of Josh Allen. I mean, that's one of those things where, like, that the data and the film align on Jordan Love and the progress he's made. You think back to when Jordan Love came in here roughly 2.5 seasons ago. And even though the Packers' comeback didn't get done that day, of course, remember, it was undone by a penalty on that drive when they were moving downfield.
Yes.
A penalty that was an objectively bad call there.
Yeah, and a game killer.
A game killer, and you and I have talked about how that's a very interesting moment in Broncos history and how things evolved from that point, because if the Packers complete that comeback and the Broncos are 1-6, are they even making trades that week instead of holding off and waiting to see? And of course, they beat the Chiefs the following week. I mean, that season might have taken on a different tenor, and the Broncos may not have come back to 8-9. They may have made trades early.
Yep.
You might have seen Jarrett Stidham starting in Buffalo instead of Russell Wilson, and you might have seen 4-13, and you might have seen a different quarterback drafted. I mean,
Drake May.
It's all different because of that game. That's a heck of a fork in the road, but it worked out as it did.
Yes.
Yeah. Green Bay didn't complete that comeback, but remember the Packers and Broncos were both really struggling. This was a matchup of two teams that looked as if they were going nowhere at that point. And the Broncos started to get better, they beat the Chiefs and they won some close games in November. And the Packers, it really came together after that game. It was almost like, even though they had that penalty that waylaid that drive, for Jordan Love, the fact that he brought them back, gave them a chance to win in that game, very similar to Bryce Law, to Bryce, to coming in, the Panthers getting that drive last year. Bryce Young, Love, Bryce Young. Bryce Young getting that drive. Jordan Love, Bryce Young. Yeah, to Bryce Young getting that drive last year. That drive was a moment that seemed to awaken them. And they went all the way to the playoffs that year, and they went to the divisional round and lost to San Francisco. And it's brought these two teams gradually to this point where both of them can legitimately talk about being Super Bowl contenders. It's just funny how that ended up working.
Yeah, it's worked out. And if we look, it's got a playoff feel. I believe Cortland Sutton talked about that today, Mace, when he was out at the podium. Like, hey, this thing feels like we know how those post-game feels.
Yep, here's Court.
Yeah, I mean, shoes. I feel like, each week you kind of got to take the mindset of, each week is a playoff game in a sense. I don't think that there's, we talk about, I think the past 3 weeks I've gotten a similar-ish question, and you can't overlook any team. Whatever team we're playing against that week is the most important team, and no matter what their record is, I think that's something that a lot of people don't give credit to, and I've spoke at nauseum about, it doesn't matter if a team's 3 whatever or 9 whatever, you're gonna get their best shot. And yeah, obviously records play a part in how teams are portrayed in the media or whatever, but at the end of the day, you think you're dealing with, a group of guys that are very prideful and want to go out there and be successful, whether their record reflects it or not.
Prideful and understanding what's in front of them. They're never going to be taken by surprise. I talked about it like last week's game. Sean Payton, and he talked about it, Mace. He let him know, hey, this one's a big one. This one against Green Bay, they win and they're in the playoffs. There's other scenarios this week. God, don't make me think. I think it's a Bills loss and a Chargers loss. But either way, just control your fate. Control it yourself. Win and you're in.
There are plenty of other scenarios for the Broncos if they lose and can get in. I mean, there's ties involved with it, but the clearest thing is win and get in. Like that's all you have to do. Like the Houston law, it's like if they lose and Houston and Indianapolis lose or tie, they get in, and then there's a Denver tie and an Indianapolis loss, a Denver tie and a Jacksonville loss. Like, just if you win, you're in. That's all. That's all it takes. So there's clarity there for the Broncos. Just get it done. It's all, and ultimately down the line for the season, it's all in their hands. By the way, the Patriots also are in a very similar spot. In fact, the Patriots scenarios, Cease, are exactly the same as the Broncos. Like, if you go through it, they're literally exactly the same, except you sub in NE for DEN in the abbreviation in the release that the NFL sent out. That was it. It's very, very humorous in terms of how it went. Very, very clear. So, just win, baby, to use the Raiders slogan. The other thing, of course, it was brought up a couple of times in the locker room today. You were at the podium. I was in the locker room.
Right.
The idea that despite the Broncos' 10-game winning streak, despite their long winning streak at home, that the Packers are favored in this game. And we know Sean Payton uses some things as motivation. And I didn't get confirmation that he brought it up to the players, but I got a sense it came up at some point. Just another thing that he threw out there in terms of the lack of respect coming from outside the building. He keeps down the noise, no doubt, but he does throw those logs onto the fire from time to time to just try to get that lid from his team.
Mm-hmm.
The little anything he can find. And being an underdog at home when you've won 10 in a row, when you have the best record in the league, that's something that I'm sure is going to be brought up at some point. Like, hey, they don't believe in you. You guys have won every home game since early October of last year. You've won 10 in a row, and they still believe you're going to lose this game. It's not a big deal to me, but Sean Payton likes to find his motivational tricks. He'll find a way to use that.
It's okay. Bo Nix was asked about that, Mace, and, well, he's got his own opinion.
He's got his own opinion as well, and let's hear Bo Nix.
Don't really care. My mom thinks we'll win, so that's all that matters.
I love those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than like Milhouse on The Simpsons saying, "My mom thinks I'm cool."
Yeah, and with Bo, we've heard and had conversations like the haters say this, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really pay attention." It's part of the math. Other players will pay attention, and Sean probably just, hey, heads up, Vegas has got the Packers favored.
Yeah, it won't be something he lingers on. Probably he'll just mention, hey, they think you're going to lose. They got you. They've got him favored. Mm-hmm. Y'all have won 10 in a row. Y'all are, you've won all 6 of your home games this year. You've won, and you closed last year on a home winning streak, but they don't think you're going to win. So I believe it's 11 in a row at home, if I'm not mistaken. They don't think you're going to win.
Okay.
Oh well, hey. That's and hey, that can be a very powerful thing that, people still don't believe in you after all this. And you don't want to lose that edge.
No, not at all.
So
now you and I are cut from the same cloth when it comes to gambling and whatever. Don't make sure you have enough money to pay your bills. Whatever you do is whatever you do. But I will say this: the line is made to get people to move the line. It's to get people to bet. You and I don't entertain that. We actually don't really like it at all.
Yeah.
I did read a tweet on air. I always say get as offended as you like, because someone I follow was like, hey, that like addiction to sports gambling is a sign of low intelligence. So hopefully you're not addicted to anything, but the line is placed to get people to bet. It's not really, they have their own purposes for setting a line. Mm-hmm. Who's the better team? It's a home field advantage for the Broncos. It's a Spider-Man meme of these two teams pointing at each other. The key that we'll get into on Saturday really is Josh Jacobs. Because if you stick with the ground game, if you're capable of it, I still say if the Eagles would have stuck with Saquon Barkley, they would have won, Mace. And we love the Broncos, want the Broncos to win everything. But if you want to run and you're capable of it, you can run on this defense. So, because I know people in the chat room are bringing up the rushing yard total. It's like, yeah. Teams get impatient and then go away from the run. If you had a guy like Jacobs who said, here's 30 carries, you'd beat the Broncos.
What does it say that the team that has been most successful against the Broncos defense the last couple of months had its play caller as the coach who knows Vance Joseph the best?
The Commanders.
Yes, and what did they do?
They ran with 3 different backs, and they were effective.
Yeah.
And they threw the ball quickly.
Yep. Which
you can do if you run the ball. If you don't run the ball, you can't throw quickly.
Throw quick, so involve the tight end. Obviously, you can't. The Packers can't do that as they would like. But throw quick, spread out horizontally. Don't be afraid to throw in the direction of PS2. In other words, that means you don't take any area of the field out of play. And then when you spread them out, you run up the middle. Draws are your friend.
Yeah. And it's a friend because it keeps that pass rush away from you.
Yep.
They have Micah Parsons who moves all around. Broncos have Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper and the backups. But if you're running the ball up the gut, it takes the edge guys out of it.
Yeah. And just be patient. I mean, you look at the end of the day, I mean, Washington, it's not like it was a hugely spectacular game. I mean, it was 4.3 yards a carry, but they were persistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were persistent. They extended drives. They converted third downs. They were 47% on third downs. I mean, they had the best third down success rate of any team since the Chargers back in week 3. So it's they put the template out there, and then you fast forward a week, and you and I talked about, hey, if the Raiders were smart, they'd feed Genty, and they'd keep feeding him. And of course, what happens with the Raiders? They lose the plot after that first series. The Raiders had a nice they got the ball to Genty a couple of times early. They involved the tight end. Like the Raiders, like that first drive was like, okay, this seems they when they were with their opener, okay, it seemed well conceived, and then they lost the plot. Like, but hey, good for the Broncos that they did.
Right.
But
let's go to Geno Smith.
Yeah,
that'll work.
Let's put this on the shoulders of a quarterback who appears completely over the hill.
And discouraged and flummoxed and okay. Well, Jordan Love ain't that. You know, and Josh Jacobs, Jason, one of the real ones in the chat. We all love all of our chatterers. Yeah. He says the Colts ran on Denver and put up 29 points, even if it was 5 flipping field goals. Like, and Jonathan Taylor is better than Josh Jacobs, Mace, but that line is pretty close between those two.
That was another team that converted third downs as well. They were at 47%, right? The same success rate as, or they were 46%. My bad. The Chargers a week later were at 47%. But you see that? I mean, the Colts, the Chargers, the Commanders, 46, 47, 47 in third down percentage. Those were the 3 best teams on third down against the Broncos. Mm-hmm. Okay? I mean, the Chargers, not a spectacular run game, but they were north of 100 yards against the Broncos. I mean, yeah. And the Giants didn't end up getting it done in the end. They ran 32 times for $119. Now, you had Jackson Dart involved. Remember, Cam Scadaboo had some runs as well. You know,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was a nice fad.
Run the ball. If you're Broncos opponent you run the ball on them. You have to be patient with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Broncos deserve credit for making teams get impatient on them.
Yes.
There's a psychological game they play. The psychological warfare, the Broncos win it. That's part of the game too.
I love it. Absolutely love it. It is Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. A couple more thoughts before we're out of here today's show on a Wednesday. Let's hear a word from our sponsor.
At Ramos Law, they believe in building long-term relationships with their clients. It's never just a transaction. Their motto says it best. Ramos Law. What makes us different makes us better. And it's so true. Ramos Law, uniquely built to fight for you.
Mace, give us that vibe from the locker room.
Ooh, how to describe it?
Vibe check.
Good spirits. I thought one of the more interesting things was hearing from Jonathan Cooper talking about you get in the stretch run, you need to go to another level. And he mentioned that as the team got into the stretch last year, it ran out of energy a bit. And remember, the team did fade last year. They came back from the bye, did beat the Colts, but remember, Jonathan Taylor ran all over them, really won that game as a beneficiary of Anthony Richardson playing terribly. Because remember, Bo Nix and the offense had a poor game that day. Go out to LA 4 days late football. And that was the game. That was the game where the Broncos lost the plot offensively. Had that wonderful first drive, running the ball effectively, and then gradually get away from that and end up getting into an up-tempo game against the Chargers that they really weren't equipped to play at that moment. And then go out to Cincinnati, and the defense can't force a punt until overtime. Get the win against the Chiefs, of course, against their JV, and then we know what happened against Buffalo. So it was interesting to hear Coop talk about how the energy was lacking. They sort of ran out of gas toward the end. Nick Bonito, back in July, I remember him talking about one of the things he focused on in his off-season work was conditioning himself to where he didn't fade down the stretch. So that's an interesting aspect here, I think, to look at with the Broncos as they get into these 4 games. That when they reflect on what they learned from last year, they've got to be getting stronger. So hearing that from Coop, I asked Mike McGlinchey about it, and what he said is it's not necessarily another gear that you need to find, but you need to always be improving. Like if you're not always trying to improve, if you're standing still, you're falling behind. So you can't rest on the laurels of where you are. You've got to continue to evolve as a team, as players, if you're going to step it up. And so basically, he didn't say you have to find another gear, but he did say you have to keep growing. You can't stand pat where you are. That this level the Broncos are at, it's great. It's gotten you at 11-2, but you have to keep going beyond that if you're going to succeed in these next 4 games. So that's the sense I got. The mood in the locker room is that, all right, it's great that we are where we are, but it was expressed differently from McGlinchey than from Nick and Coop. But we've got to find more here if we're going to accomplish our goals. So that we have to keep growing. We have to kick it up a notch. Whatever way you want to describe it. We've got to find more. That's what I got from the locker room today. That's the vibe that everyone's got to dig deep and has to find more, because if you don't find more, you're going to find yourself on the wrong side of things the next few weeks.
This team is good enough to win 11 games. They're not good enough yet to win the Super Bowl.
No.
Find that next gear, because you're going to need it in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they learned firsthand last year that what more looks like. They learned against the Chargers, even though the Bengals weren't a playoff team last year, they were playing like it at that moment. So they learned from the Chargers, they learned from the Bengals, and they learned from the Bills. They learned what more looks like and feels like because they were on the business end of more 3 times. So now they understand what it is. They have to find it within themselves against this first team here in the Packers has plenty of playoff experience. Like they've been to the last 2 postseasons with Jordan Love. They still have some guys remaining from postseason appearances with Aaron Rodgers earlier this decade. So even though they haven't had a great amount of success, they've been there. They know what it looks like. So you have that. The Jaguars are interesting because it's a youngish team. You do have a quarterback who knows what it looks like in Trevor Lawrence, and a quarterback who has succeeded in the playoffs, has led one of the great comebacks in NFL postseason history.
Right.
So Trevor Lawrence, that you're going to see next week, he knows what more looks like. He knows how to find it. And then who knows what to say about the Chiefs right now. But you do have, and then the Chargers there at the end, you have teams that know what that looks like and how to get there. The Broncos, they experienced it on the other side of it. Now, how do they apply that and manifest it for themselves? That's what we're fixing to find out here the next few weeks.
That Bills playoff game last year, because it's like a neighborhood check. I remember when I went to Orlando's small house in the same neighborhood where Nikola Jokic lives, and I'm driving in my little commuter car, and I'm like, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
Like parking my little commuter Ford Focus in front of Orlando's small mansion, because he's got a big one too. And I was just like, yeah, I don't belong here. That's how we felt in Buffalo last year. Like, oh, that's just different.
They had that early touchdown, And yet by the second quarter, it just felt like,
Yeah.
and it's the sort of thing that I felt the same way watching that game as I felt watching some of those CFP games a few weeks earlier when you had like SMU against Penn State or Indiana against Notre Dame. Like, okay, like one team doesn't belong out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why this whole hand wringing over Tulane and James Madison being in. I'm like, did you see the first round games last year with schools from the power conferences going on the road? Did you see those? Did you see Tennessee at Ohio State? They got stomped, okay? So, yeah, don't give me this crap. I mean, that, Tulane doesn't belong. I saw teams from the power conferences get absolutely browbeaten. So, yeah. Don't get me started on that stuff.
I love the mini Mace rants we get at times here on Orange and Blue Today. It's our Denver Sports YouTube channel, and we'll be out there tomorrow breaking it down for you. Right here on our Denver Sports YouTube channel. But Mace, before we're out of here today, how can folks further help us in our quest to rule YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying, hey, I've heard this OBT thing is BFD. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, stay frosty, baby.